Hey guys, welcome once again to the Layman's Lounge, and I have a challenge that has been presented to me, not directly, but from a friend of a friend actually, and they were having a conversation about Christianity and this person's life, and he was basically saying that he is a person who is content. He's happy with his life, and he especially feels great when he's helping others. He gets a special joy out of that, and yet he is not a Christian. So his challenge was, I feel great about life and about who I am. I try to be a good person, and I especially feel good about helping others. Why do I need Christianity? And that was the challenge. And, that does present a challenge. And really, if you think about it, if all that life is this life, that's all there is no afterlife, there's no heaven, there's no God, all there that is here, then that person is actually right. Probably the best you can do is to enjoy life for what it is, perhaps help others, perhaps enjoy the relationships you have, and that's really the highest wonder that you can have in the world. And if that's all it is, that's fine. However, then the question is that all that's in the world? The Apostle Paul actually says that if there's no afterlife, if people don't rise from the dead, and if Jesus didn't rise from the dead, then go for this life. He actually said, if we have hoped in Christ in this life only, we are of all men most to be pitied. So that's really the question that you have to look at. Is there life beyond this life? And I would also say that yes, helping others does make you feel great. And why? Because the focus is not on yourself, it's looking to the interest of others. And when you think about that, that's more of an argument for Christianity than against Christianity. Because the whole point of Christianity is to get your focus off of self, realize that you don't have it all together, and that you do need God. And people who are not interested in Christianity and religion in general want to be the self-sufficient. They want to be the source of ultimate happiness, and they don't want to have to need somebody, and they don't want to have to admit that they are not perfect, or at the very least that they are in some need of somebody else. So that's kind of a tough situation for somebody who feels actually happy about themselves, but in reality they have this deadly disease that they're dying of, and they're completely unaware of it. So really what you have to do is to let them in on the bad news, and actually let them know about that, because they're actually living in denial. They don't know that they have a problem, and they do. So the question is, would you rather, somebody in that situation, would you rather them believe the lie that everything is perfect and everything is great, or would you let them know about the truth, so that in the end they will live a life that will really bring ultimate happiness? Some people who say that they're completely content, I often question whether they are truly content, and they have feel no holes in their life. Some people might, but even if they did, they're deluded because they don't understand that there is something that is missing. And ultimately, being a happy and a good person does not take care of your sin problem. That's a big thing. You can help all the people that you want, but in the end, it's not going to take care of your sin problem. As I've mentioned in some of the videos about salvation, sin, or missing the mark of God's standard, separates you from God. And being a good person is not going to get you there, because the standard is perfection, and that's God. A lot of people say, well, I'm a good person, but Jesus actually said that no one is good except God alone. And Paul actually echoed that too in Romans when he said, there is none who does good, there is not even one. Because a lot of people compare themselves when they say, why should I embrace Christianity? Some Christians are, so much hypocrites that I see people who aren't Christians who live better lives than the Christians do. And in some cases, unfortunately, that's true, and Jesus is certainly not promoting that. But what we're called to be in Christianity is to be like Christ, not like other Christians. If you just look at the other guy, and he's full of mistakes too. So you're called to be like Christ, not like other Christians necessarily. Now, a lot of people who also claim to be good, question you can ask them is, who do you consider yourself to be the greatest person who has ever lived? A lot of people think of Mother Teresa in that role. And so you kind of look at this comparing yourself. How do you compare yourself to Mother Teresa? I would think 9 out of 10 people would probably say, well, I'm not quite as good as Mother Teresa. Okay, let's go with that. Now, let's look at Mother Teresa. Did Mother Teresa say that she was perfect, that she had it all together? No, even Mother Teresa admitted herself that she has faults and she does not have it all together, and that she was dependent on Jesus. So if the greatest person ever lived needed Jesus, how can somebody who admits that they are not as good as Mother Teresa say that they can just take care of themselves and they don't need God or Christianity? So if you're somebody who is not willing to admit that you are a sinner, look into that. Look into that. So all this to say is, people who believe that they are content, unfortunately, they need to be made known of the bad news that being a good person is not good enough to get you into heaven. We live approximately 75 to 100 years at the very most, and that's compared to eternity. I would rather live my life for eternity than just those 75 to 100 years. Now, how can you be sure that you are going to be living for eternity and that you for sure are going to heaven? Well, as I said before, you have to admit that you're a sinner, and being good is not good enough. But then also you have to put your trust in what is good enough, and that is Jesus. As I said before, sin separates God and man, and Jesus has remedied that situation by paying for your sin on the cross. He paid for your sin and mine, and if you trust in what He did for you and that He alone is sufficient to do that, then you are reconciled with God, and you will be spending eternity in heaven with Jesus. So that's the challenge of the situation. If you find a person who is ultimately, they're thinking that they're good enough, perhaps they're also questioning other things. They question whether the Bible is true that has the gospel that I mentioned, or they're not sure that God exists, and you might have to get into some of those conversations as well. A lot of pre-evangelism questions too, and those I will tackle in another video. Thanks for listening, guys. Please subscribe and comment below.